his 3 years as Deputy County Administrator of Public Safety, Eric Watson has found several ways to strengthen the department. I talk one-on-one with him for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Eric Watson, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Needless to say, you are the Deputy County Administrator of Public Safety for Charleston County. As we sit here right now, Eric, and you've been here for 3 years, what is the biggest difference from 3 years ago to right now when you think of this Department of Public Safety?
Well, walking back in time 3 years ago, I can tell you there's a big difference because before I got here, we have 4 departments that were kind of separated. Each department had its own deputy county administrator. Different approach, different leadership style, different purpose. And the purpose for me coming over here, the county council wanted and the county administrator wanted to consolidate those departments underneath one leadership, one vision, one purpose. And so that's when I came on 3 years ago to help them consolidate and create this very first public safety department.
So what is the biggest difference about your leadership style?
Well, I think we all have a unique leadership style. And I'm not comparing mine to anyone. I'm not saying mine is the best. I just believe in nurturing an environment where your staff, your team is able to grow and learn, and empowering them to be part of the policy-making process, and allowing them to have a seat at the table and to determine their own destiny while guiding them along the way, while also creating an environment for growth and advancement and fairness across the board. So that's my approach. Been that way since I was in law enforcement for 27 years. That approach has never changed. I don't plan on changing it at all.
So where exactly are your employees growing and learning when it comes to the public safety department?
Well, everything began at the first line level. And like I would always tell my senior leadership team that, look, you're already vested, okay? You already got 25, 30 plus years in the system. Okay, so it's time for us to prepare the future leaders by implementing more leadership development programs, bringing people from the outside to help us teach that approach, and also encouraging the very first lines leaders or employees or staff or team members that there's room to grow. It's room to grow and advance, because this is a new generation of employees, right? If they don't see an opportunity to grow and advance, what's going to happen? They're going to leave. They're going to take their talents elsewhere. We've already invested so much money in these guys, these guys and ladies, so why not invest in them? So that's why I'm about investing in our frontline employees and create an environment so they can grow. At the same time, too, make mistakes, but learn from the mistakes.
So what mistakes have they learned from thus far?
Well, in terms of performance-wise, we're talking about how to interact with the public, how to communicate, and that's our biggest challenge is failure to effectively communicate with each other. The vast majority of our issues is communication. If we learn how to communicate and be open-minded, and understand that we are not perfect. We all make mistakes, but the only mistakes I will not allow is mistakes that cause lives, cause injuries, and that's repeated over and over again.
What mistakes have been repeated over and over again that you had to permanently fix and rectify?
Well, the only mistakes like I said, no one is perfect. No organization is perfect. And I'm talking about leadership. And I'm talking about mistakes. Allowing your employees to do their jobs. Don't be a micromanager. Okay, so those are mistakes that I'm seeing at the mid-level management of micromanaging employees. You create an environment where employees are afraid to do their jobs. They're second-guessing themselves. Those kind of things. You have to understand that we all at some point second-guess ourselves, but to allow that employee to grow on her or his own is what leadership is all about.
So what resources will you allow to actually have them to be able to grow on their own?
Like I said, educational resources. We bring in, even myself included, I go out and meet our dispatchers from time to time, our EMTs from time to time, new recruiting class. And one thing I started with EMS was we implemented an oath of patient care 3 years ago. So we have to raise the standards. When you recruit new employees, they come on and work for you. It starts with the very beginning. My mom always tell me, your first impression is your last impression. So when you employ these employees, when you employ your staff or your team, they want to feel a sense of professionalism, a certain standard that you set. So setting that standard, raise the bar, is what we're all about.
So when it comes to those new recruits, how many are you looking at right now?
Well, we just recently graduated 16 out of EMT Academy class, and we have 20 that started on September 8th.
Wow.
So within the past 4 months, we've already added 36 EMTs out in the field.
Wow. So what's your end goal for this?
My end goal is very simple. Have 0 vacancies and make sure we improve our standard of care across Charleston County. And that's very simple, while allowing our EMTs and paramedics to grow.
Wow. So how many vacancies do you actually have right now?
I don't know off the top of my head, but last time I checked, it was just under 40.
Wow.
That's not counting the 20 that we just offered letters to.
Right.
And we also have another Australian class that's coming in sometime September, October. So ideally, I would say within the next 3 to 6 months, we should be under 20.
20. So let me ask you this then. What's your goal for this recruiting?
Well, I will always tell my team that recruitment never stops. We're never going to stop recruiting, even when we're at 0 vacancies. Which will be a plus for us. But we're never going to stop recruiting. We're going to recruit for 3 reasons. People will retire.
Yeah.
Okay. People will make mistakes that will cost them their jobs. Okay. Some folks realize that this is not their profession. So we need to keep that pipeline going.
Sure.
And so what we're doing, we're creating a list of qualified applicants while we're recruiting. So when we have the vacancies that's being announced as being open to the public, we already have a list of potential applicants that we can apply.
So how many qualified applicants do you have now?
Well, I don't know that on top of my head yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What is your approach, Chief, to obviously improving operational coordination and decision-making processing by leveraging the latest technology and a variety of data and sources and evidence?
Well, that's a great question. I'll use our dispatch center as a great example how we're leveraging technology, because dispatch over the course of years has been inundated with a lot of calls for services, and they're doing things that now one dispatchers should not do. They're answering service for officers. Someone should look for a particular officer, they call our dispatch center. Animal services, they call our dispatch center. Abandoned cars, they call our dispatch center. So certain things our dispatchers should not be doing. That was allowed to happen over the course of years. So now we're implementing artificial intelligence to grab those non-urgent calls and triaging those non-urgent calls and sending it to the proper agencies. I can tell you, recently I had a meeting with my director, Jim Lake, and we're seeing a great reduction in non-urgent calls because of AI.
Wow.
So we're leveraging technology in that sense, and it's showing some valuable returns for us at this point.
And what returns are you seeing from this AI initiative?
Well, our call volume in terms of non-urgent calls has been reduced. Okay, I don't have the percentage, but I just got an email from him last week, and he just indicated in an email that he's seeing some positive trends. So it's trending upward for us, and that's allowing our 911 dispatchers to receive or handle the emergency calls.
So let me ask you this, Chief, then. What other trends are you all watching when it comes to this AI format that you're currently using?
Well, across the county, everyone is going to AI, and some people are saying that is a threat to our way of living. But we're looking at it as a way to improve overall public safety and apply common sense to a lot of things that we're doing, and also helping us triage calls for services.
Wow. So let me ask you this. I know you probably don't have a number for this too, but what were those non-emergency calls like? Well, the number of them before AI was initiated.
I can get you those numbers from Mr. Lake at the end of this interview, but I don't have them top of my head.
Now, how do you, Chief, create obviously advisory committees and working groups and actively participate in existing forums to identify information resources that you just mentioned in order to enhance coordination and actually decision making?
Well, you know, our dispatch center we're also receive assistance to our board, which consists of fire chiefs, police chiefs, and the sheriff, and it's a much broader board because we have chiefs within Charleston County who sits on the board and emergency management. So, and the premise for that was when the Consolidated Dispatch Center was first created was to share information, collaborate a whole lot more, and share information not only to our internal sources but also to the community. So we are still leveraging that platform. We're finding creative ways to make sure that we make things more easily accessible to people like you. For example, traffic. Media now have access to real-time traffic data through our dispatch center versus them calling our dispatch center for accidents. So those are ways that we're collaborating, we're sharing information, but there's always room for improvement across the board.
Where do you see that improvement right now?
I think we're on the right track. I think we're on the right track. Obviously, technology, there's things that we still have to learn about technology. We just can't rush into it. And technology can't replace human resources. So we have to understand that technology, while it's great, but the average citizen still wants to hear the human voice at the end of that phone.
Yes, sir.
That's just a fact.
Exactly right. So where within the department have you actually increased the integration of GIS to actually support in operational planning?
Our dispatch center, EMS. As our population increases, we adapt. And we use the data information that GIS has right here in government to help us project how our future planning should be. For example, EMS. 3 years ago, we had about 44 ambulances. Now we're on 60 ambulances. Why? Because we're seeing the trend, we're seeing the population increase, we're seeing the subdivisions that's being increased, that's being built, developed on an annual basis. So we as leadership, as an organization, we have to make sure that we trend upward too and make sure we have the resources available to help tackle those challenges.
So what other resources do you need right now, Chief?
Human resources. we all need people, employees, and that's why recruitment will always be at the forefront of our mission. The more we recruit, the more we encourage folks to apply, to understand the importance of just providing overall service for the community, the better we all will be. So recruitment will always be my number one priority.
When it comes to population, I know this is a Charleston County Council question, but where exactly is your department watching this population trend heading?
Well, which we're heading upward.
I mean, in areas, which areas are actually growing and that you all keep your eye on?
Well, overall, you got Johns Island, you have West Ashley. West Ashley is growing a great deal. You have parts of North Charleston, it's expanded. For example, did North Charleston just create an additional district?
Yes, sir.
So that's telling you that they're expanding. So with the expansion, with the increase in population, we also have to, as long as we stay within budget, we also have to make sure that we recognize those challenges and make sure we position Charleston Government Public Safety in the right position to provide services.
And I know this is a silly question, but where are the challenges right now?
Always going to be resources. Always going to be, these are tax dollars. Okay, so just because we like things, it doesn't mean we've got to go out there and get it. So we have to be physically responsible and true stewards of tax dollars. Just because we see big fire trucks and big ambulances that look pretty nice, do we really need that type of vehicle for basic services? So we have to make sure that things that we do make common sense from a physical standpoint. We just can't go out there and expend money that we don't have, because these are tax dollars that we are held responsible for.
So what's fiscally sound for your department right now that you can actually stay within the budget and still spend?
Well, there are many ways you can be creative within your budget. If you can evaluate your budget from a personnel standpoint and say, do we need all these supervisors that's currently supervising not that many people compared to years ago because we made some adjustments.
Right.
We can convert those positions into something more simple like EMTs and paramedics.
Sure.
That will cost much lower salary costs and overhead costs.
Wow.
Those are examples that we can sit within our budget. Just being more creative. There are many creative ways to work within your budget.
Yes, sir.
Without going before county council. Now, county council have supported. There's big, strong supporters of public safety.
Yeah.
So one thing I don't like going before county council is asking for funds when we're not finding ways to work within our budget. Now, we work within our budget and we're at that ceiling.
Yes, sir.
That we need additional support. Then we'll approach the council for support for help.
And I know you spoke about this earlier, but currently, as we sit here right now, Chief, how many EMTs and paramedics do you actually need?
Well, we still have some vacancies. We're still looking at about 40 vacancies, but those numbers will be reduced because I'm not factoring the offer letters that's out there. The new hiring class that starts later in September.
Right.
So right now on paper we're looking at about 40 vacancies.
And what is your current budget?
For EMS?
Well, for the public safety.
Well, my overall budget is $45 million.
Okay.
EMS is $23 million.
Okay.
But I want you to put EMS in this perspective.
Yes, sir.
EMS is responsible for servicing the entire Charleston County area.
Yes, sir.
That's 400 and how many population? You're a smart guy. Over 400 people live in Charleston County. That's not counting the visitors who come and travel. That's not counting the tourists.
Right.
So the budget is $23 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we service the whole entire county. So I'd like to see that eventually probably looked at, evaluated overall. But I can tell you right now, based on what we have now, it's working.
And that was my next question. Where do you see this project increasing to as far as EMS?
All depends on the demands. All depends on the increase in service calls. But I can tell you, first thing first is, like I told you before, we have to be creative within our own budget and find ways to add more services to it.
So what more services do you want to add right now that you can actually be creative with when it comes to the budget?
Now, what I mean by services is finding more ways to hire more personnel without raising the budget.
Yes, sir.
So the services are going to stay the same. But a standard above standard. But in terms of hiring more employees, EMTs and paramedics, versus increasing the budget. So that's what I'm talking about. So we have vacancies. That's for example, we have about probably 10 vacant supervisory positions.
Wow.
So the question I pose to the leadership team, are those positions needed? Can we convert those positions to an EMT or paramedic to add more personnel to the field? Now, when you do that, you need more ambulances, right? So that's what I'm challenging them to think along those levels. And that's what they're doing.
So, Chief, let me ask you this, then. How many of those positions do you want to currently convert?
Well, she's trying to pick my mind now, so I'm gonna leave that out to those guys to decide,
We'll go back to you.
they'll bring the numbers to me, and then we'll go from there. So they're finding creative ways to make things work.
Now, going back to the technology, Chief, how many times have you actually reviewed, revised, and actually updated existing policies related to the use of communication services and other technology?
Well, dispatch center, we do that. We do it on a regular basis with our dispatch center with technology, because that's the crux of where throughout my entire department, dispatch has the more advanced technology in communication. So they're constantly reviewing their policies and SOPs as it relates to technology. But with that being said, we also have to apply common sense to our approach. We don't need to go out there and spend money for so many technology when we have so many platforms in front of us and we're confusing our staff. Different platforms. So let's keep it simple. If it don't make sense applying that technology to what we're trying to do, we're not going after it.
Now, how have you actually conducted threat and risk assessments for all the public safety facilities and developed an actual action plan to address those vulnerabilities?
Well, another thing that I forgot to mention is that we also have a counter threat manager.
Wow.
That works with me, Lauren. That. So she carries a clearance that allows her to evaluate a lot of information that's out there globally and nationally. And that's really her job, to help me evaluate things that may impact us at the local level. And so we just hired a workplace prevention violence manager, Dale Middleton.
Yeah.
His job is to study internal threats from our own staff, if there's and as well as external threats too as well, that may pose a threat to Charleston County government.
Right.
So we at the forefront of that. We have a counter threat manager, and we have a workplace violence prevention manager.
And without going into any details, Chief, is that as far as internal threats, is that increasing or is that decreasing, or is it on the rise?
Well, historically, our biggest threat to any organization is internal threats. And I'm not saying that employees pose threats to us, but at the end of the day, we all have issues, right? We all have problems. And it's one thing that we need to do is study those red flags. Most employees that are troubled will present red flags to their frontline supervisors. But most of the red flags are overlooked as he or she is just complaining, that's just Eric Watson doing his thing. So you need to make sure you have someone in place that can, outside of HR, that can help you evaluate those kind of trends and study those trends, because there may be a bigger problem within that department or within our organization that should be addressed on the front end versus the back end. The last thing we want here is to be on the back end of that challenge.
Yeah. So, in what way are you working with human resources to reduce those types of threats?
Well, as far as that, we're going through training. Like my workplace violence prevention manager, he works hand in hand with human resources, and he helps with their employee relations investigations, internal investigations that implies any potential threat, indirect or direct threats to employees or staff.
Now, going back to the money, Chief, how do you go about continuing to actually identify and advocate for capital improvement projects and actually identify those alternative or alternate funding sources based on obviously annual basis?
Well, look, you have to be creative. I can use one of our brand new departments that we stood up in the next 24 months is our Tri-County Biological Science Center.
Right.
Okay, so that is a very large project. What it is, it's a DNA lab for the Tri-County area. And so one of the challenges was, okay, where are we going to get the funding, number one? Do we need partners to come on board? So we were able to talk with Berkeley County and Dorchester County Sheriff's Office, and they both agreed to contribute to the building of that lab. They each contributed $1 million apiece. And the state itself contributed $2 million towards that, because they see the need for the Tri-County area, the need for such a lab to help balance off, to help sled out with their processing. So it's a partnership. So it's collaboration, it's building relationships over years. I've been in this profession, that people want to see, as long as they see that you're doing good deeds with public funds, I think they will always support you. Now,
okay, so, Berkeley and Dorchester and the state have given their share. So how much is Charleston County putting up?
Well, of course, we're the anchor.
Yeah, of course.
So we're going to putting up the bulk of the funds, and we're managing it. It's our project. We're controlling it, but there are shared partnerships with us.
So how much money do you need altogether for this lab?
Well, it's still in the design phase, so those numbers will not be evaluated or be up for notice until probably another 6 months or so.
Okay.
But on a range, you're looking at between $20 and $26 million for the actual building itself to be built.
Wow.
That is just a range.
And where exactly here in Charleston County will it be built?
Leeds Avenue, just between turn 90, right there in that area, right there, right on the street, on the street front. Leeds Avenue, right next to the jail.
Wow. And so, when this particular building is built, how many people do you hope to serve in that particular capacity?
Well, right now we hired our director over a year ago, Tom. He came out of Michigan, well qualified, well credentialed. So, and we just recently hired our quality assurance manager, and she starts the latter part of this next month.
Right.
And so, once that building is up and running, you're looking at between 10 to 15 staff members to process DNA evidence in the lab. So it's going. This is a major project for the Tri-County area.
Wow. And how many people will be employed in that building?
About 15.
Wow.
And all depends on the supply, on the demand.
Right.
But I just gave you an estimate between 10 to 15.
Right.
Maybe more, maybe less.
So what's that demand right now?
It's high, and that's the reason why SLED is building its brand new DNA lab. Because SLED had every county, 46 counties in this state, have police departments and the sheriff office, and every department was submitting evidence to SLED. Can you imagine the reason why they had a backlog?
Right.
And so we thought it'd be beneficial to help not only the Tri-County area, but also to help supplement SLED operation too as well.
Yes, sir. So, and I like to ask this question a lot to a lot of the politicians, but when it comes to this particular lab, what public-private partnerships do you want to have for this?
Well, I'm not a politician.
Right.
So look, we're always looking for partnerships. Partnerships like MESC,
Yes.
I'm quite sure once we get up and running, we'll reach out to MESC, local hospitals for partnerships. We're going to more likely have an advisory work group to help us develop policies and procedures for it, because this is a community initiative. Although it's funded, mainly funded by Charleston County, operated by Charleston County government, but this is a shared partnership, and that is our approach. That's how we want to be looked at, as a shared partnership, community partnership.
And one last question, because I know you have to run, but speaking of the community, Chief, what's your approach to improving community engagement through a variety of mechanisms to maintain a high level of trust between public safety and obviously the community?
Well, my background.
Yes,
I've been doing this going on 30 years, and I've always believed that we have to really invest in our community, because the people that rely on us the most are the ones that really don't trust us in public safety. So we have to. It's a process. Building relationships. It's an ongoing process. So each one of my departments, and they understand how I feel about it, they're required to have some type of community outreach. And they're out there every day, 7 days a week, doing some kind of volunteer work in our community. Because those are the people who we are serving. Just because I don't carry the badge, or I don't wear the badge, carry the gun anymore, or a uniform anymore. I'm just mainly suit and tie.
Yeah.
But just because you're wearing a badge and carrying a gun doesn't mean folks respect you. Or you have to earn that respect. It's a mutual respect. Same thing with my EMTs and paramedics. Same thing with dispatch.
Oh, yeah.
You have to build. It's an ongoing process of building relationships, and you have to allow them to be a part of that process. And one, we can do it by being transparent, things that we do openly, and even when we make mistakes, we have to come out and say we made a mistake. Because at the end of the day, I've learned this through the course of my career.
Yes, sir.
Bad news will get better with time. It's still bad news. So rather not you're going to put it on the front end or the back end. I'd rather put it on the front end versus the back end, because the back end, you wouldn't like the backlash.
What mistakes have you made when it comes to, obviously, community engagement?
What mistakes I've made, far as, I think sometimes I'll give too much. When I interact, that's something I enjoy doing, right? And so there's a benefit to that, and there's also a disadvantage to it. Because sometimes when people reach out to you for help, you try your best to help them out, but you just can't. So I think that's, I won't even look at it as being a mistake. Okay, it's an opportunity for me to educate them on a different approach versus don't wait till the last minute to call for help when you're in a bind, because there were red flags up to this point. So now, unfortunately, I can't help you out, but maybe I can direct you to someone else who can help you out. So I look at mistakes as opportunities and watch the better.
So let me reset for just a second. I know you have to run, but what are your strengths and weaknesses and your threats and opportunities for your department?
Well, our weakness is always manpower. Funding will always be our weakness in this kind of operation because we rely on tax dollars. We're not a private organization or profit organization. We rely on tax dollars for operational services. So those are our weaknesses. Our strength is our experience. I think looking back on everyone who was assigned to me, we have well over 100 years of experience, and it's a broad experience: fire, emergency communication, emergency management, law enforcement, medical services. Right. And I just want you, before we wrap it up, I want you to help me educate the community as public safety. It's a much broader portfolio than just law enforcement. Law enforcement plays a lane, an important lane, but a lane. So when you look at public safety as a broad perspective, you have to lump in emergency management, medical services, emergency communication, fire operations, and last but not least, the community. All that's public safety. So when I go out there and speak to groups, I try to educate them about public safety. The true definition of public safety is a much broader portfolio than just law enforcement. I've been in that world before.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the myths that you're trying to also dispel with this?
I think I just said it.
Yeah,
I think I just said it. When you look at how I look at public safety, you have to take a walk to a balcony. All right, the highest balcony on that condominium complex, and you have to look down and look at the multiple lanes that's involved in public safety. You're not just going to see blue lights. You're going to see red lights, orange lights, white lights. So that's why it's very important that we all, as a community, particularly in public safety, work together, collaborate, share information, and also be transparent with each other. I think that is the true definition of public safety. I think if we want to really move Charleston County in the right direction, and just to Tri-County in the right direction, we have to understand that concept. We have to remove the silos, the barriers that we ourselves put in because we won't be protective of our own departments. When folks come to me for help, I'll say, this is not my department. Whatever y'all need, my guys will give it to you, as long as it's reasonable. That is it. If you need someone to educate you on EMT or CPR or first aid, pick up the phone and call them. They will not tell you no. If you need someone to explain to you how dispatch works, pick up the phone and call them. They will not tell you no. Fire operations, they won't tell you no. So this is a community effort.
Yes, sir.
We are true public servants, and giving back to the community is just part of public safety.
Now, what were those barriers that you all placed down that's hindered you all from growing?
Well, sometimes leaders just have egos, and make it all about them. Say, well, this is my department. I'm going to say no just because I can, or I'm going to control this because I can. That's not benefiting the community at all. It's not even benefiting their own department. So when we look at communication, is always the key. Open, honest dialogues. And if there are ways that we can help each other out, it's our purpose to find those ways instead of finding reasons why we cannot. I'll always, when we have our weekly meetings with my team, when I first came over 3 years ago, I always would ask them because, of course, I'm a new guy on the block, right? Quintin. They will throw something at me, and I'll ask them, Why?
Mm.
Why can't we?
Mm.
Well, I don't know. We never asked that. Why can't we? Explain to me why can't we take this approach? For the most part, they can't explain it to you because that's because there's change.
Sure.
They're accustomed. That it's not bad, but they're accustomed to doing things a certain way. And when you trying to interject a new idea or change, naturally you always have people that will, kind of clap back or try to tell you, no, we can't do it that way. But you have to challenge them. As leader, you have to challenge them.
What else do you want to challenge this department on?
To be better. I just sent an email out recently last week congratulating my entire department on it was something that we did internally. And I said our goal should be to be better. Yeah, we're doing great things. But there's always room for improvement. So I challenge them all to be better. Find better ways to improve our overall operation. Find better ways to improve our work environment for our employees. Find better ways to help our employees advance. Find better ways to empower employees. So there's always room for us to improve, and I always tell them every day, okay, let's work to make it better.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Deputy County Administrator of Public Safety Eric Watson, thank you for your time here on Quintin's Close-Ups again.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.